So why is it so challenging to get people to consider their pensions? I was having this debate on the weekend. In essence, it was the mortgage pension conundrum. The basis of the argument was, is it better to buy a property, taking out a mortgage, or put your contributions into a pension fund? My friend Susan argued that it was much better to go with a mortgage and that pensions were far too complex and way too uncertain. Well, I've had a look at a mortgage and the rates, the paperwork, the charges, incredibly complex. And as far as term, trying to tell me that over 30 years there's not uncertainty in the mortgage, in the house price, in the charges, in the interest rates. Of course, I know that there's a really good argument for property, and that is you get the value of living in the property over time, and hopefully the value of the property is also going to rise over time. But Susan's argument in terms of the value of the property fell apart because she hadn't considered the cost of interest during the life of that mortgage. And I made the numbers simple for her. I said, if you borrow £100,000 at 5% interest, averaged over the 30 years, you're going to end up paying another £100,000 in interest costs. My argument to Susan was that you should think about it the other way around. Rather than repayments on your mortgage, think if those payments had gone into your pension. Over 30 years, if the pension was averaging a return of 5%, you'd have £100,000 in your pension. Of course, if you had an employer who was matching those contributions at a pound for a pound, then you'd have £200,000 in your pension. And even better, if you've got an employer that's prepared to put in £2 for every £1 you put in, you'd have £300,000 at the end of 30 years. Now, the property argument does have some validity, and it's not the value of the property argument, it's the value of the mortgage. Well, not the mortgage particularly, it's the value of the discipline that the mortgage imposes. The mortgage imposes this discipline to make payments month after month, year after year. Make the payment or lose the house. This is discipline with a big stick. And I've seen people do some weird and unusual things just to make those payments. I like discipline. Discipline gets results. And maybe in pensions, we have to dial up the discipline. Perhaps it's already happening with auto-enrolment and the potential of auto-escalation. But there's so much more. There's so much more in terms of the modelling, so much more in terms of measurement that we can use to enforce the discipline. And when people start seeing their pension pot being equal or greater to the value of the house, they're really going to appreciate that discipline. Maybe we need to think of pensions not just as savings for retirement, but as systematic saving schemes for wealth creation. It would certainly turn people's perceptions of what a pension is on their head. But maybe George Osborne has just done that in the budget announcement last week. Certainly food for thought. Certainly strengthened my argument.